What's going on, everybody? I'm here with a special video for you about probably one of the biggest pieces of news out in Computex 2018. We're taking a look at the ROG gaming phone by ASUS. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and focus on some of these B-roll shots of the phone so you can just see how awesome it looks in all of its glory. Now, obviously, this type of design really gravitates towards a specific kind of demographic, like a gamer, but we have been hearing from other people here at the show that they really like the look of it, and I think the reason why is because it's different from all of the other smartphones that we see these days. And in particular, you have all of these angular lines, there is a fingerprint reader on the back that looks pretty gnarly, and the logo in the middle for the ROG, Republic of Gamers, is also RGB. Just take a look at this color here, and then this color, and then that color. Yes, it is literally breathing its colors out in a different pattern, and it's just showing the green, the blue, the purple, just cycling through them, and I could just stare at this forever. When playing games or watching media, there's plenty that you can do here with the front-facing speakers that are a dual stereo setup, but you also have a headphone jack, so it's really awesome that we can still use our wired gaming headsets when using the ROG phone. Over on the side, though, there are a couple of slits here, and yes, those are exhaust ports. What you have here is a place for the heat to dissipate and to come out of the phone so that when you're doing some heavy gaming, the heat of the phone will not slow it down, or rather, it's trying to dissipate it so that it doesn't impede your performance. There's a dual camera setup on the back, but there's not a whole lot of information about it. I did open up the camera app and saw that it was basically a 12 megapixel camera that also had an ultra resolution mode, so there's not really a whole lot I can say about that. The front-facing camera is an 8 megapixel shooter that also includes the beauty modes that you probably are familiar with from ASUS devices already, and it does do some pretty crazy things, like if you crank it all the way to 10, you can even make things like your eyes a lot bigger, like I did. The phone feels substantial, and the great looks kind of translate into a very hefty build, and you can kind of expect that because there are actual fans in here that go along with those exhaust ports that I mentioned earlier. There aren't really any extras when it comes to the buttons on the phones until you get over to the other side of the power button and the volume rocker, and you see a couple of little ports. Now, this is an expansion port that is being used in order to add some accessories to the device. The main one is a module that has even more fans installed onto it, and yes, the logo on that module does do RGB as well, but one thing I'm really excited for is the return of what we can basically call the game vice. It's basically a controller that wraps around the two sides of the device when you have it in landscape mode and you're playing games, and it looks like ASUS's version of the Nintendo Switch. In this demo that we saw, thanks to Qualcomm, we were able to play the game in the game vice while it was wirelessly transmitting all of its visuals to a TV via a wireless dock. And it was showing up perfectly on the TV, so I could look down at the phone if I wanted to, or look at the TV and not see any delays in my gaming. The performance feels great. I feel like any heavy game could work really well on the ROG phone, and with that AMOLED screen, colors were coming through really well, and with a 1 millisecond response time in terms of touch latency, it just feels like everything is happening in real time at a very high clip, especially with that 90 Hz refresh rate. And to add even more to the gaming experience, ASUS added in what are called air trigger ultrasonic touch sensors. So when you have the phone in landscape mode, you can use your index fingers and press down on the corners of the phone that are kind of like the L and R buttons on a game controller. This could actually really enhance general video gaming on a mobile device because you have more programmable buttons that you can set to certain macros. That way you can have even more capabilities for your avatar or your character in the game. And powering all of this, of course, is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 845, the latest mobile chip by Qualcomm that is doing a great job in a lot of phones, but in the ROG phone, ASUS got an exclusive version of the chip that runs at 2.96 gigahertz. Now, that's a lot of power, and obviously it needs to make sure that it is cooled, so that's why you have the fans and the extra fan module. The other specifications are really high-end. There's actually a version of this phone that can come in at 512 gigabytes of storage, and the RAM is at 8 gigabytes, so there's a lot to like here. Now, as far as the battery goes, obviously if you have the RGB on and you're doing some really heavy gaming with the fans running and all that, the 4000 milliamp hour battery is probably going to drain pretty quickly, so I wouldn't really be having high hopes for really long battery life on here unless your usage is going to match it. But speaking of matching performance, there is something called the X mode on here. It's the main button over on the bottom of the UI on here, and once you hit it, you're able to tweak some of the settings like the fan speed, and it gives you information on what all the different metrics are in terms of performance. There is a huge gaming audience here at the show, and if they're going to merge the two worlds of mobile devices and gaming, this might be the one that's able to do it. The ROG Phone is definitely a phone made from the ground up for gamers rather than being a phone that gamers would simply like. And to be honest, it's probably the phone that will get me into PUBG Mobile because I've been wanting to try it or Fortnite out, and if this phone is the best way of using it with the air triggers and with the fans that keep the phone cool, then PUBG Mobile might be in my future. So you can see how Qualcomm is really pushing the boundaries of phone performance, and ASUS is able to add to it so that you can get even more out of a mobile device. I really can't wait to get my hands on this phone. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of information about pricing or availability or anything like that, but we did hear that there are going to be review units sent out, so I'm going to do my best to grab one and be able to use it for a while and let you know if a gaming phone like this is not only viable, but maybe it should be in your future. Until then, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for watching one of my first hands-ons in Computex 2018. I'm going to have a lot more from the show, and remember to stick around and hit that subscribe button and drop some likes on this and talk to me in the comment sections down below. I do want to hear from everybody, and thank you so much for joining my channel. We're all going to grow together. So thank you so much for watching once again, and remember to enjoy your tea, everybody.